Hello everyone. In this week's video, I'm talking about recognizing the sunshine of your own soul. See, you are the light in your life. You are the spark of the divine. You are a part of that ultimate supreme wisdom that many of you refer to as God, or for some of you by many other names. The Pope does not have more light than you do. The Dalai Llama does not have more light than you do. In fact, all the great spiritual teachers that have walked this earth before us and who walk the earth now have equal opportunity, divine light, the same that you have. We have these great teachers, Deepak Chopra, Carolyn Myss, Braden, Byron Katie, Marian Williamson, Eckhart Tolle. We have a lot of these great spiritual speakers that bring through that divine wisdom. And Spirit wanted to be very clear today that we all have an equal part available to us. Hi, my name is Nancy Rebecca, and my business is intuitive development. So my website's intuitivemind.org. And I've been doing this work for about 25 years now after I had my out-of-body experience and started my own kind of spiritual seeking to try to figure out what was all this that I could see with my kind of my third eye, my spiritual sight of auras and chakras. And in that time, I've been able to have the benefit of being able to see a lot of you and see your auras and your chakras, and to try to understand this kind of system, this divine system of these dynamic human energy fields. So I'm going to be taking a look at I made quite a few notes, so I'll be looking down once in a while at my notes to kind of help keep me on track. But we've been coming through a pretty intense time. We've had recently a lunar eclipse, followed by a solar eclipse, followed by some other planet conjuncting with other planets. And then we had the summer solstice, and now in a couple of days we're going to have this enormous another full moon. And so it's been a real intense time on the planet. But in this phase that we're in right now, Spirit really wanted me to give this message to let you all know that you are the light. You are the light. You are your light. And every living thing on the face of the planet has the same equal access to that higher source of knowledge. No one's really probably actually told you that. And, you know, we don't really come with an instruction manual that kind of gives us guidance on how to access our higher soul, that aspect of ourself that resides outside the body. And if you go high enough with your higher soul, you can get very high level spiritual information. The only thing that blocks you from this knowledge is your own limiting thought patterns, your own limiting patterns, belief, mental constructs that we have, all these kind of forms that we create to help us, learn our life lessons here on earth, but to also kind of help us to understand the bigger picture about what's going on. We have really been coming through a highly chaotic, crisis-filled time on our earth for thousands of years, but for us living on the earth, these past few years have seemed more intense than anything kind of humanly possible to live through. So you share the same knowledge, but you may have blocks of energy in your energy field that doesn't allow that higher knowledge to come through. I was talking to a family member yesterday, and we were kind of talking about our differences in beliefs. And he said, you know, my faith really is something that kind of challenges me in my faith and what I believe, and yet I'm having other kind of soul spiritual experiences that maybe don't always align with my faith. And he said, but that's my journey, and I imagine I will continue that journey for the rest of my life. And I thought that was quite a beautiful way of putting it, because we both, when I was talking about being a psychic, and he said, he doesn't struggle with that, but he struggles with that in relationship to his own faith and honoring his own faith. And so that's where we all are in our we have access to the expanded awareness, but where do we kind of channel that expanded awareness, maybe sometimes in limited ways. You may be wondering if it's really true that you have access to this same high level of knowledge. And you may wonder, then why am I so unconscious? Or why do I not seem to be able to hear my spirit? Or why does it that I don't get it? So I've kind of talked about those limiting patterns. But what I also want to share with you, and that Spirit wanted to share with me, is that not all of you are here on this earth to be spiritual seekers. I know that might sound a little crazy, but you can have siblings from the same family. You can have a sibling that's a school teacher, a sibling that's a doctor, a sibling that's a minister, a sibling that's a gardener, a stay-at-home mother, a stay-at-home father, a drug addict, a bank robber, or a murderer. You can have all these varieties of siblings that grew up and lived in the same household, having dramatically different, unique experiences on the face of the planet, so that in that unique container, each person can learn what they're here to learn. And so not everyone is a spiritual seeker. Now, I have been doing this work for 25 years, and in the beginning, I remember thinking, it's the next best thing to Wonder Bread, and I thought everybody needs this knowledge. But now, 25 years later, I really realized that you can have some very high ascended spiritual masters that came to this earth that want to be homeless. They want to experience homelessness. They want to experience being at the bottom of the barrel, and yet their soul can be a very, very high level ascended master. And so Spirit's really wanting us to know that all of us are equal in the eyes of God. And so I talk about that divine wisdom, that divine intelligence, that kind of supersized part of ourselves is available to all of us who wish to kind of expand our knowledge. This is one of my most favorite statements that I've heard in the last couple of weeks, where Mike Tyson said, all of us have a plan. All of us put all this energy into our plan in life. The goals that we're going to set, the journey that we're going to accomplish. We've got it. We can have it organized down to the T with how much money that we want to make. And then suddenly we get punched in the face. And then all of our plans go out the window. And I loved it because that is the absolute truth. That what I consider now is that spiritual seeking is a luxury that is not afforded to many people. It is a luxury for those who maybe don't have any major events, or they have a good life, and that they can spend a good majority of their day kind of spiritually seeking, expanding. But I remember when I had my out-of-body experience, I was stressed, I was depressed, my hair was thinning, I wasn't sleeping well. And when I had my body experience, it really did kick me in the deep end of the swimming pool of spiritual development. I don't experience those highs and those lows like I did in the beginning. I have been able to kind of create a little bit of a calmer life, and definitely a career that affords me the luxury of being able to spiritually develop more. And so just remember that every part of your life, even if you're homeless, even if you're a drug addict, even if you are the President of the United States or the Dalai Lama, each and every one of you has your lessons here on this earth to learn. And from the divine perspective, all of them are considered spiritual lessons. Let's see. Your spiritual light, this is another thing. Your spiritual light is always there for you. Your spirit, your soul is always there for you. never abandons you. But I've worked with enough people who've walked through those doors in my office who feel alone, who feel lonely, who do feel abandoned, who do not feel loved, do not feel in favor of the light of the divine, that they're having so many things turn upside down in their life, feeling like they are being punished for something. And so you may kind of feel a little hopeful, thinking that yes, you do have equal access to the divine wisdom available to you. It's just that it may not be your time at this time. So I kind of consider our spirit, our light, may be so far out of our body that it does feel far away from us. I was talking to someone the other day during one of the psychic showcases. I was actually doing a reading, and when one woman volunteered her aura for me to read it, and I was like, honey, your spirit is like on the 72nd floor in a high-rise building, and you're down here on earth. And she was like, I know, I don't feel it. I feel disconnected from myself. So, we were able to help kind of shift some energy. So her spirit she could hit the down button in the elevator, and her spirit could come down closer to her body. And she was able to experience that and feel that. But one of the stories that I always share, it's kind of like spirit is like the UPS driver. Where the divine is like the UPS driver and the package is like your spirit. So it's delivered to your front door. But I always tell my clients and students, if you don't literally open your door and pick up that package and bring it into your house, you're never going to receive it. And so when I talk about the symbology of that, it's like your house is like your aura and your set of chakras. Your spirit can literally be sitting out on the front porch, can literally be in the UPS driver's truck. And unless you take that package of your own light and bring it into your body, bring it into your dynamic human energy field, you are going to feel disconnected from your soul. And so that's one of the things that I do, is I help people feel connected again. Again, it doesn't mean you're going to be some huge spiritual seeker, but it most certainly is wonderful to feel yourself moving in tandem through life with your body and spirit on the same page. Dreaming, wishing, stating affirmations, thinking positive, hanging around positive people can really get you far when it comes to your own soul building. And many of you, then you'll find yourself in that sweet spot. It's like, I have arrived. I'm here. I feel good. I'm surrounded by good people. I've got good things happening to me. But what I've also learned in all these years, most of us are not going to move out of our comfort zone when we're in our comfort zone. And we have nothing pushing us out of our comfort zone. And so it's up to us to create dynamic experiences to challenge us. There was a client that I was working with, and he was feeling a bit kind of, we'll just say, disconnected from his soul, kind of apathetic, kind of like, not hopeful, not discouraged, but not hopeful, kind of not anything, just kind of like life is just kind of like meh, it's just nothing. And when I kind of looked at his field and I was talking to his spirit said that the biggest way for him to heal this kind of apathetic state is to do something that he's always wanted to do, but he never really had the nerve to do it. And so we kind of talked about, I kind of listened when he said, I'm not quite sure what that would be. It might be this, it might be that. And I said, well, you sit with it, you think on it, you ask your spirit to help you to remember, to do something that's kind of challenging and different than your normal life. And he had a very kind of serious professional life. So I heard later on when he came back in that it had probably been about 6 months since I had seen him. And he had just remembered that as a young kid, he'd always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. So it's quite interesting. He'd wanted to be a stand-up comedian, but he had a very kind of, serious professional job that didn't probably allow a lot of room for that kind of humor that he felt like he had inside. And what I loved hearing was that he ended up signing up for a stand-up comedian workshop, and he ended up inviting all his colleagues and his friends and his family, and he did a stand-up comedy session. So it wasn't professional, it wasn't like in Vegas, it wasn't any of that, but it took a lot of guts to write his own material, stand up, having those jokes land so that the audience laughs with you. But this is the thing, when I went to look at his energy field, it was like I was looking at two different people. It was like more of that equal part of his divine light that's equal to what everybody has. More of that came into his body because he was challenging himself to grow. He wasn't anymore, he wasn't sitting around waiting for life to challenge him. And he was able to do it in a way that was under his control and a lot of fun for him. And it was able to kind of spread or spill over that humor, that sense of accomplishment, that truck driving by. That was able to spill over into his life and, being a father and a husband and in his work. For me, what I was saying was that I was getting little messages. We do get messages from our spirit. I call them the spiritual signposts in life. You might call them the mystic and the magical, the little synchronistic things that happen to you, where you may be thinking about something and suddenly you see it in a bumper sticker on the side of the bus or a billboard, or somebody comes up and says something to you and you're like, okay, I'm following the breadcrumbs here. So those are the ways that your spirit gives you these little messages. So 25 years ago, reflecting back on my own life, I can tell you, I can see all the little messages that my spirit was giving me that I needed to make a change in my life. Then those little messages became bigger messages. And I still kept working, and I still kept burning the candle at both ends, and I still kept trying to be the ultimate nurse, the ultimate wife, the ultimate mother, the ultimate sibling, the ultimate daughter. I mean, you kind of have the picture. And as soon as something would happen, and one of them was like 7 major surgeries in a year, and it was like as soon as I recovered, I would just drop right back into my comfort zone, living the life that I always lived, in a way that made sense to me. And then suddenly, boom, I had my out-of-body experience, and I could no longer deny that I was a spiritual being having a human experience. So I refer to that time as I was hit by the 2x4s. I call it the 2x4 effect. And I now often, when I share this story with my clients and with my students and with friends, is that I always think, what it must have been like in the spirit world with all my spirit guides and angels and the God of my heart saying, all right, we gave her these small breadcrumbs, she ignored them. We gave her pieces of bread and she ignored them. All right, we threw the whole loaf of bread at her and she ignored it. All right, let's knock her out of her body. Maybe she'll get it this time. And I say that kind of laughingly because I was stubborn. I was kind of a hard nut to crack. And this is, I think, why I love working with people so much, to teach them to start trusting your intuition, trusting those little signs before they become big signs. Because I can tell you, now 25 years later, I work hard every day to make sure Spirit doesn't have to pull out the big 2x4 to get my attention anymore. And even when I was diagnosed with cancer, I heard the little kind of hints that something was wrong, that I needed to pay attention. But I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But I did allow myself to kind of go on hyper alert. So, again, the message is the brightness of your soul. We all have this bright light of the soul. You just need to bring it into your body, bring it into your human energy field. In these 25 years, I always say, the one thing that I've learned and that I want you all to hear today, that it's the little things in life, appreciating and having gratitude for the little things in life that will help kind of soften you, nourish you, nurture you, help you to be more easily expansive when those bigger things come to your life. And so when I'm struggling on those days, and I still do, even though I have the knowledge that I have the consciousness that I have, I have to go through and be grateful for all the little things happening in my life so I can greater appreciate when the bigger things are coming through. Your soul's light is like a blinding LED light that can cut through miles of darkness. But many times when we're struggling, we're suffering, chaos, crisis, we're focusing on our problems, we're looking at the dark. We're looking at the dark. We're looking at the dark. The only thing you're going to see in your life is the dark. But just knowing that you have that bright spark, that bright LED light that's available to you, you kind of grab hold and you say, I'm bringing my light into my body. I'm bringing my spirit, my soul. This is my body. This is my human energy field. This is my unique life of grounded illumination. And I'm going to focus on my light. That takes hard work. It's like if you haven't exercised in 20 years and you walk into a gym, you're not going to be able to bench press 300 pounds. You're going to start with those little weights and build it up slowly. Many people have experienced abuses of power, have lost hope that there's light in the world, have lost hope that there's any light available to you. I mean, if you've experienced horrific things, you are going to start to doubt that there is any light at all, or any hope, or any God at all. Like a lot of people have just really given up. So again, helping yourself to remember and helping others to remember that you are a spirit having a human experience in the world, and you're also the spark of the divine that is equally shared by everyone else in the world. You don't have less and someone else has more. You don't have more and somebody else has less. We are all equal. However, we all have different lessons, and not all of us are meant to be deeply spiritual seekers. So we can't project that what we think somebody else needs to do to find their light. Just meeting each other where they are, just like spirit meets us where we are. Gently nudging at first, maybe a little harder shove next, maybe the 2x4 effect next, where it might be an illness or it might be a car accident, some bigger things to get our attention. But those littler things were happening for years, long enough before we kind of opened our eyes and became alert. So just know that if you have struggles in your life, and it feels like this kind of wave of struggle and wave of struggle and wave of struggle, if you just keep bringing your focus back to the sunshine of your own soul, those waves will get further and further in between. In 25 years, the waves of struggle have not stopped coming for me, but the waves are not as high. They are more gentle in the way that they roll through my life, make much more doable than getting knocked off my feet or kicked into the deep end of the swimming pool. And so I promise you, in my 25 years of working with people as they are on that journey of reconnecting with their own soul, that as you ideally meditate, get out in nature, exercise, sleep well, drink fluids, eat healthy, be consistent, work towards emotional stability, mental stability, over time you will find those, again, those kind of waves of struggle become further and further and further between, giving you longer periods of beautiful rest time to enjoy the light that is you. So thank you everyone for joining me again this week. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button and the little bell so you get notified when the next one is released. But you can also get on my email list so that you can read my weekly blogs. And I'm going to be consistent over these next few years as we move from that kind of cycle of the fifth sun to the sixth sun, which is all about moving kind of out of the dark ages into the golden ages over these next few years. So thank you all again for joining me, and I am so glad that your light and my light are joining together to make a brighter light in the world for us all. Take care.